I'm Trevor Metcalf. I'm the marketing manager at Resco. I'm here with my partner, Ivan Stano. Ivan, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Trevor, and hello, everyone. Excited to be here today.
Yeah, definitely. We have a great program planned today, but just wanted to introduce ourselves. We're Resco, one of the leaders in advanced mobility for Microsoft business apps, the field, and more. We have this new series called the Powercast, where we'll be covering news, insights, events, all kinds of information related to Microsoft Power Platform, Resco, and beyond. So thank you for joining us with our inaugural session today. We have a great conversation planned, but before we jump into that, just want to go through a couple important dates in the Power Platform world, in the Resco world, so you can keep up with us and follow us wherever we end up. The first of which next week is the Microsoft Business Applications launch event. You can find this online on April 10th. Should be a really exciting session to learn more about what's happening in the world of Power Platform, Copilot, and everything else Microsoft has cooking up in the next update. Next, we also have DynamicsCon 2024. This will be in Denver this year in May, the May 13th through the 16th. If you're in the Dynamics community or part of the MS Dynamics World community, I'm sure you're well aware, or hopefully you have your tickets purchased, your bag packed. But we at Resco will be there as well. We'll have a booth. So if any conversation today sparks your interest and you'll be there, please feel free to stop by, say hello. And lastly, we have Resco Next in Vienna. So Resco Next is our flagship conference. We're actually celebrating our 10-year anniversary this year. We'll cover quite a bit, our new developments from Resco, integrations and enhancements to Microsoft business applications, and a lot of great tools for our partners and customers. So we'd love to have you there. That's June 4th and 5th in Vienna. So all of these events will have linked below afterwards, or you'll be able to find with our session or on Resco sites. So with that, I think we're ready to transition to our conversation. We have a really excellent panel today of different experts around the Resco world, the Power Platform world, and in their own industries. So first off, guys, with that, just wanted to thank you all for being here and helping us kick off the Powercast. Now, with that, let's maybe do some introductions. I think everyone would benefit from knowing what you do and where you're from. Let's start with Guillermo, if you'd like to give us a quick introduction.
Thank you, Trevor. So I'm Guillermo Cardona. I'm a principal solution architect with Argano. I've been doing Dynamics since version 1.2, so that's been about 20 years. I've known Ivan for a long time, worked with Resco before as well, and excited to be part of this panel. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thanks, Guillermo. Ahmed, how about you?
Thanks, Trevor. Thanks for having me. I'm Ahmed Al-Kousi. I'm the SVP for Link Development in North America. Link Development has been a Microsoft partner since the late 90s. We started implementing Dynamics since 2005. Currently, we have a decent Dynamics and Power Platform capability. We, in addition to that, we also do custom software development.
Mm-hmm. Got it. That's great. Yeah, thank you. And Luke, how about you?
Yeah, again, thanks, echoing the previous comments. Trevor, Ivan, thanks for having me here today to partake. Luke Demeter, Director of Client Services here with MNP Digital. Not quite back to 1.0, Guillermo, but CRM 2011, I guess, is where I entered the fray. So a little bit later on in the lineage, but our focus, again, much like the rest of the group, on the business applications landscape of Dynamics, the Business Central workload on the ERP side, and obviously all the Power Platform services as they continue to evolve.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Excellent. Now let's dive right in, guys. I I think the first place we wanted to start the conversation today was around Dynamics 365 and Power Platform. Both are two of the leading platforms for development, and in your experience, just wanted to know what your sort of sweet spot is for these projects. So how do you see sort of the benefit of each, or how does your practice take advantage of Power Platform versus Dynamics? Maybe we'll start with you, Guillermo. So you go back to 1.0, I'm sure, you know.
Well, 1.2, but actually it's kind of interesting because back in that day, everything was what we consider Power Platform. It was, we called it XRM, and basically meant that we could build whatever we wanted with this wonderful platform. Microsoft built this great tool that had a database with a user interface with some automation built behind, and you could do anything. So back in that day, we didn't do a lot of the native CE implementations or CRM implementations. I mean, yeah, we did do a few here and there, but most of the clients that we did were geared towards having a solution that they were managing their business with an Excel spreadsheet, for example, or an Access database, and we were able to provide this great tool. So it's interesting how the years have fluctuated between that, then the focus on CRM and the CE apps, and then back to Power Platform again. And it's funny when people tell me, oh, Power Platform is a brand new thing. No, not really. It's been there for a long, long time. It's just a different name. Mm-hmm. What I've seen is that there's the type of customer that really needs that solution that's specialized on or specific to the app that Microsoft developed, whether it's sales, customer service, field service, that obviously fills that mold. But then we've seen also a lot of other customers, or even those same customers that maybe have a process in their organization that doesn't fill that mold. You know, why use the sales app to maybe manage, I don't know, a ticket-based process and that may not even be a good fit for the CS app. So we've been seeing a lot of people that say, you know what, we have this little process, this little thing that right now it's been managed by, you know, somebody with a book or an Excel spreadsheet. Can we do something about it? And yeah, we can do that with a Power App very easily. So
yeah, got it. It's interesting to know the history and that a lot of these things that they may stay the same, but their names change, right? Yeah, that's interesting. Ahmed, what about you? Does this resonate with you, Guillermo's perspective, or do you see it differently? Different experience?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's quite similar. So we use Dynamics 365 CE for most of our implementations, especially where there is a use case that maps easily to either sales or marketing or customer service or field service. And that does not have to be you know, directly related to customers, for example. So we have an interesting implementation where we used it for automating a court. So the economic courts of Egypt, we fully automated using Dynamics 365 CRM. And in that case, the litigants and the lawyers were kind of replaced customers in, you know, using the front end. And then the judges and the court clerks and the court staff were using the back end. You know, similarly, there are similar cases where, for example, in health organizations, you can use it for patient management. So those are kind of the cases where it's a relatively easy map. I agree also with Guillermo that when there is a smaller use case where it's more like a custom software development requirement, and you know, we have a very simple database, for example, data is being managed in Excel sheets and so on. It makes a lot more sense to build something very specific using Power Apps. Also, as part of the Power Platform, RPA, Power Automate, is used in many cases where you have a legacy application and you don't want to do a huge application modernization project. So in other cases, also from the Power Platform, you can use Power BI simply for dashboarding or producing reports. So the tendency is to pick the Power Platform when you have a smaller use case that looks much more requiring customization. Also, licensing, the costs of licenses in the Power Platform could be significantly lower than with Dynamics 365. So that might be a criterion to select as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point, both on licensing and use case. It can be a big gray area. So I know a lot of our customers and partners, it's a tough decision. Up to us to help make it easier, right? I think that would be great. Maybe Luke, you could touch on really what's the criteria for recommending something on Power Platform versus Dynamics, or if there's anything else, even something third party.
Yeah, bunch of great points mentioned, and I had a mental timer running around how long it would be before the XRM term got thrown out, and Guillermo only wasted 7 minutes. That was mostly the intros, right? But that, I think both of you touched on it, right? Is that ability to just come in and use the anything to anything relationship flexibility of the platform, whether we call it Power Platform or D365 or Dynamics CRM or XRM, depending on the vintage of the year, it's still all the same technology underneath, right? And I think looking at it for us anyway, being more with the MNP lens of looking at it from a digital advisory and more of those consulting and ERS, like enterprise risk services that we have, we kind of look at it from an end-to-end, what's the end-to-end business process? And then picking the right tools for the right job and making sure that you're not, as you said, over licensed. In fact, a few hours ago, I had a conversation where it was, well, wait a minute. So you're telling me, we have 20 people in operations, 20 people in sales, 5 people in marketing, 5 people in finance. They don't all need to be licensed with the full user license? No, not at all. We can pick and choose, and we can make all of this speak together. It's all Dataverse based, and there's no need for third-party middleware in terms of integrations. There's no need for data migration. Flattens the learning curve from a training and user adoption perspective. It looks and feels more like what those specific line of business department users need from a day one perspective. So it provides faster time to value in that respect. So I think those are some of the things we try to, I'll say, coach or evangelize early on in the process, and saying, looking end to end, right? And whether that's, pulling things in from Guillermo, you mentioned the classic examples, right? What are the biggest database tools anybody's using today? Excel, Outlook, and Access from a legacy perspective are usually those ones, or there are other, I'll say, larger, as you get into larger enterprise scenarios, applications that are, simply not going anywhere, and it becomes a how do we more effectively interface with them scenario. So
I think the license also, it's a big game changer, because back in the XRM days, the license cost was the same, right? So it didn't matter what you were building, you still had to pay the hefty price. Now, because the Power Platform license is a lot cheaper than the CE license, it gives a lot of the companies that possibility of deploying the app to a lot more users for a lot less cost. And again, with the bells and whistles that you could potentially have with a sales app or a customer service app, except that it will be tailored specifically to whatever business process they're doing. And again, that's a lot of the things that we're seeing, that a lot of the clients that say, well, you know what, we don't necessarily want to pay the $95 per user because we have 1,000 users.
Yeah,
but we only need a little application. What can we do? And it's still going to be, even though there's going to be some sort of the consultative services from companies like us, from Argano, where we had to build the app, it's still a lot cheaper than building an actual app from scratch using just regular software development. It's a lot cheaper, especially in the long run when it comes to maintenance and things like that. So it's a great tool. It's a great solution.
Yeah. Also, sorry, Trevor, just to add one final point. So the low-code, no-code aspect of the Power Platform is also starting to appear as a differentiator, or as as being suitable, more suitable for some certain use cases. And the fact that it's easier now for business users, not IT staff, to build their own pieces of code and still have it integrated, have it governed somehow, have it under the security rules of Microsoft and the IT department or whoever is taking care of governance and security. I think that's also an important aspect of the Power Platform now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's when organizations start thinking about implementing a center of excellence and proper change management rules, so that, yeah, it's great that everybody can do that, but make sure you have a control. You don't want 50,000 apps out there, clouding the environment, which I've seen that. I've seen organizations that all of a sudden have all these apps that nobody know what they're doing or, why they're there. So,
Yeah. Definitely.
Exactly. It reminds me of the first couple of years when Power Platform came out and was getting so much popularity. And I was at some event and we had a session there, and everybody was excited about how the citizen developers are designing their own applications. And I remember one gentleman standing up. He was from an IT department, and his question was like, I'm totally desperate. I'm from IT. I need to govern this. And now I have these 12 new developers who are coming up with a new app every month that I don't know what to do anymore. But it seems like we come a long way since then, and there's like better way or better practices how to control this more effectively.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and one of those, I think, just as a thought on that, right? I always like to think of it as the buy versus build, right? And Guillermo, you mentioned doing pure dev. I think if you think back a few years, we often would go through that exercise of licensing an environment with field service or customer service, and then stripping out some of that functionality and going through that extra effort, right? I think just with the tool sets the way they are today, it allows us to do a bit of a hybrid, where we utilize the deployment methodology of hybrid agile and talk about buying, then building, and even to the point on the center of excellence and governing it. Yeah, you've got a team of citizen developers. Okay, let's review internally, what have they done? Great, excellent use case we've identified. By the way, did you know that that's already available in core sales application? And let's decommission the for all intents and purposes, the pilot application you've done on a Power App, and have an overall system strategy around that. So those are some things I think are the outputs of that center of excellence idea.
And not only that, but also the fact that because everybody can do the development, there may be somebody else may have already done it. We found organizations where I've worked with other clients where we've seen 10 of the same app. They do exactly the same thing. So like, why? Now, yeah, some organizations, well, but that maybe doesn't have any inherent cost, because from a licensing perspective, I'm paying the same, it doesn't really matter. But then, yeah, there's still long-term costs, because you still have to maintain it, and they're still there. People start using it, so there's training. There's a whole bunch of different things that you need to worry about. So the implementation of good COE is definitely key.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, guys, great points. And I think one thing from our side at Resco we see is a lot of this either disconnect or citizen developers, a lot of different makeshift solutions, especially for people in the field, right? When you have people who, it's being out in the field is a very different use case than someone in the back office, than anyone who's sitting up behind a computer versus someone out in the world using their phone or tablet as their main device. And I want to make sure we touch on that, because there's a lot of people who are interested in how to use Power Platform for the field. So just before we continue a little bit more into Power Platform, Ivan, I think we'd love to know from the Resco perspective, how do we recommend, what's the criteria to recommend Power Platform for the basis of a project versus Dynamics? How has that changed for us at Resco?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'll try to hopefully outline it the best way I can. So we long-term, we grew up as a company providing the mobility for Dynamics 365, right? Or back in the days, the CRM. And that's still valid. But what we see more and more, we've been doing quite a thorough research the last 10 to 12 months, talking to a lot of our existing customers, prospects, but also a lot of partners, MVPs, and Microsoft people to actually better understand what customers are doing right now or how the market looks. And we quickly found out that, like, of course, there's going to be the core, right? And the core is usually your Dynamics 365, your ERP system, etc., where you really do the heavy lifting stuff. But then you have these additional areas, as we already discussed, where Power Platform is a great fit. The price, the ease of use, the ease of building the different experiences for users make a lot of sense. And it allows a lot more versatility as well for companies. And I'll use one example, a company we've been working for a little under a year. It's a large company from oil and gas industry, right? So they have a bunch of different systems. Obviously, they have ERPs, they have Dynamics 365 field service, where they use Resco because of our offline capabilities, which in oil and gas is quite a hard requirement. But along the process, we identified that they have quite a few different areas where they don't use any systems or any digital tools. One of those areas is work safety inspection. They have to do inspections of safety and work safety, etc., making sure they're in line with all the regulations, but they were using pen and paper, which is kind of mind-blowing. And as you were all saying, like, implementing a large system for doing like a very narrow use case would be an overkill. They actually told us we don't need the complexity of work order for these guys. All they need is pretty much a list of questions that they need to cover every day, and they need to cover 3, 4, 5 different locations every week and just move on. So what we created together was a solution that is based on Power Platform, more affordable, lighter, doesn't require all the complexity, and Resco application with it, because we delivered that offline capabilities, great inspections capabilities, and it became a great fit for this entire organization. They have big plans to actually roll this out to additional 100 to 150 inspectors this year. So this is kind of our understanding of it, that there's still going to be the core, but there are these new areas, new departments, teams, divisions who don't need the core, but still need some reliable field experiences for these teams. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? The question on the panel, or does it resonate with what you're seeing, hearing in the field?
Yeah, we had a case. Sorry, Guillermo, do you want to go ahead?
No, please, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we have a use case, we have a project we actually did with Resco. And the reason it had to be done with Resco is multiple-fold. Number one, it was an on-prem implementation, believe it or not. So that is where the Power Platform may fall short, for example, in one area. Number two, the ability to highly customize the solution. And in this case, we had to render surveys on the mobile side in real time. This was a very difficult requirement with Microsoft Field Services. And then the obviously offline capability. I echo what Ivan said. It's more readily available with Resco. So that's just a comment on when Resco came into the mix as well.
And I was just going to comment on specifically the offline capability. What I've seen with clients that have deployed, for example, the field service mobile app, and they required that offline capability, it's finicky. It's the way how sometimes it works for the most part, but there may be some things here and there that not necessarily work 100%, depending on very specific solutions. And that's what I think Resco will definitely provide a much better solution. But I also am seeing where you mentioned, Ivan, of specific use cases, very tiny, that require somebody on the field to go out there and do something. I worked with a client some time ago that had to do an inspection on houses. Well, before you build a house, you have to do what's called grading, which is basically cleaning the side of the house, and so that when the water flows, if it rains, it flows outside of the house and it doesn't get into the base of the house. So this company did that grading, and they had to do the inspections of the places, and they required to take notes and pictures. So they took a cell phone and took pictures, but then the notes were done on a piece of paper. And then every day they would bring it back to the office, drop it in a mailbox, send the pictures via email to somebody was managing them, and they tracked all that in Excel. So we created an app for them where they can actually go in there. It's a Canvas app. Back then, Resco wasn't working on that. But again, it was a very specific use case where you could take a picture, type in whatever you need to do, and then send it back, and it solved the problem beautifully.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great example of Resco in the works, and I think it's a good look at Power Platform today. I wanted to make sure too, Luke, I know you have some experience with Resco. I just want to make sure you cover that. Love to know really like how you saw some of the gaps in Power Platform, and then how Resco supported that.
So I think two themes from when and why Resco. One obviously has already been mentioned, the offline scenario. For us, particularly where we're based in Western Canada, internet connectivity, not the greatest. Field, there's a lot of field service work here, and I'll kind of touch on that in a bit, but no need to further belabor the offline scenario. I think just one client scenario, mechanical services company, fully deployed on field service, techs day one get in the field, and they get in a basement of a mechanical room building and realize, oh geez, we're offline. This is not going to work. Resco to the rescue, pun unintended. And I think the other area is, I guess, just kind of from I'll call it a Cadillac UI UX in the field from a mobile app perspective. If people are really looking for a slick UI UX, then it's perhaps easier than going through the cycles of the development work on core, I'll just say core Power Apps services. But I think that I'll come back to that theme of the field to office data flow, I'll call it. And that's one that we run into with a lot of our clientele in that energy services space. I'll say a lot of primary industries. I want to, about 5 years ago, we had an anonymous client who said, we're at 200 million in revenue and we want to scale the business to 400. And we got to where we are on the back of, he said the back of a cigarette pack, or the back of the, proverbial back of the napkin. And we need some systems. And really the key objective was field to office data flow and cleaning up that process. So I think, Guillermo gave the great example of the home inspection use case where it all then turns into a paper-based process or an Excel file. Those are the scenarios where I think we start to plug in Power Platform services and make use of things like Resco.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah, and thank you for that. I think, one, I hope takeaway for some people on here is that, Power Platform is a very flexible solution. It has scale, which I think is very powerful. And a lot of the new tools, like some of the low code are, get people involved that may not otherwise be. But like with any technology, there's still gaps, still learnings, right? And, we at Resco, we've had 20 plus years of mobility experience and all of that Microsoft experience as well. So it's great when these pieces all work together. We use Legos a lot at Resco. I'm sure you can understand why. Great, guys. This is a great discussion. I have a question from the audience that I'd like to cover while we're all here. And also, just for our audience to know, we will do a continued Q&A at the end of our discussion. But I wanted to answer this question from from the audience. They said, good discussion, thank you. Due to the low code capability of Power Platform, adoption is quite high, but it's not giving necessarily recurring business for IT companies. How do we improve this? So I don't know how we can maybe find the answer to that, but I know we spoke about that a little earlier with the no code, low code. I don't know, maybe we could start with Ivan, just from like Resco perspective. We see no code, low code on Power Platform, being popular, but how do we meet those needs if they're not necessarily being met?
Mm-hmm. And I don't think I have the greatest answers for those. I'm gonna rely on the panel because you guys are the ones who are very dangerous with Power Platform, right? But I can at least share some insights into what we're seeing and what we're hearing, right? And it's definitely getting a lot of more attention from partners and from Microsoft as well. So when we did that research that I mentioned before, we identified maybe like a dozen of partners who spun off their Power Platform teams from Dynamics teams now. So they build their independent Power Platform practices. One technical thing, I'm hearing a little bit of echo. Is it just me or is it everywhere?
I'm listening as well.
Oh, it sounds like it might be from me. Here, let me mute while you guys are talking.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, so that's one thing, right? Partners are definitely investing into Power Platform, building separate teams, kind of making them like separate cost units within their organizations. So I hear that question loud and clear, because I think what we identified as well is that it's not easy to protect the IP that partners build on top of Power Platform. But at the same time, the money, the market must be there because they're doing it, and Microsoft's doing the same thing, right? I think this current fiscal year was the first one when Microsoft also did the same thing, created the separate Power Platform teams. I know we're working with one specific team focusing more on oil and gas that consists only of people who focus on Power Platform and not Dynamics anymore. That's part of their KPIs. So just a little bit of observation there, and of course I'm hoping Ahmed, Guillermo, and Luke can add some more color in how they do it, or if they found ways how to work around this.
Yeah, so we are Argano. We do have our own Power practice or Power Platform practice outside. I mean, it's part of the Argano for Microsoft Tower, where we do everything Microsoft, but it's separate from the CE practice. And what we found is that it's very complementary to the work that we do in the CE practice. I mean, we've had actually clients where we're building, let's just say, a customer service, and we're doing a customer service implementation that now all of a sudden they need a portal or Power Pages. You know, we rely on the Power Platform team to help us with that. To actually come up with everything. And again, it's good synergy because we all work together. We also are focusing a lot on that COE, as I mentioned earlier. I think the key is trying to get your mind away from let's just be implementers and let's just be consultants and let's help you. Let's be advisors and help you. How are you going to be able to implement the Power Platform strategy in your organization? And what's the best use case? What are the best practices to do that? We can help you implement the COE solution from Microsoft. We can augment that by implementing, by either modifying it or changing it. And again, helping you deploy that in your organization. And yes, we can deploy a Power Platform, a Power App, and there's always going to be changes to that Power App. I mean, there's always going to be new things that will come up. And that's where, again, a lot of times we come in and help.
Yeah. And I'll add to that in many cases, citizen development is an extension to macros, if you like, so macros on steroids, in which case it's merely a productivity tool. And, I don't think we should really be worried about it. However, it gets a bit more serious when complete applications are being built, or either independently or around the core applications within the organization, so the ERP and the CRM and so on. And the way we as a Microsoft partner have dealt with that is that we assist in building kind of the first instance of the application or the applications that complement the core applications, and we hand it over to citizen developers within our clients' organizations. We've taken that one step further, where we have built a solution where the first and most complex business process is implemented and can be cloned by citizen developers. So we kind of lay the foundation. We do one tough business process that is expected to be the most complex of what is going to be built by citizen developers, and then we allow them to clone that business process with tweaks and changes, and the training is provided. So that way we make sure the right governance is in place, the right security is in place, and so on.
Yeah, similarly, just adding on similar tactics. I think we always like to coach towards, getting our clients working on 1 and 200 level type of activities in the environment, and leverage us where need be for the 300 and 400 level types of things, like the portal, for example, or there's enough in the Power Platform services around RPA and everything else that's coming online with respect to the Copilot pieces. And I think just setting up something where I think the original question was around how do we build some ongoing recurring revenue services as a partner. Those types of managed service and arrangements where monthly we're working on these type of development activities and initiatives. We're providing oversight and direction, as you said, laying that foundation, and then helping steer in the right direction and focusing on some of the more complicated pieces, the ERP implementation, etc.
That's another great use case. I mean, ERP solutions are typically they used to stay behind closed doors. Nobody wants to touch them. You don't want any interfacing to it. With the Power Platform, you can very easily create a Power App that then interfaces with it to give, again, that little specific use case. Maybe like, for example, entering a timesheet or entering an expense, or things like that. That if you were developing on top of the ERP platform, would be a lot more expensive than just creating a Power App. So yeah. I think, and again, to answer the question, you just got to be a bit more creative on how you approach the solution or how you approach the sales cycle. Before, it was a lot easier because, I got a sales organization, I need a sales app. Okay, great. Well, here's Dynamics CRM. Now you got to be a bit more creative on how you figure out, okay, well, there's a need, or here's a way how we can make things easier if you implement Power Platform.
Yeah, and Guillermo, to that point, we've seen positive results on the ERP implementation side, where Power Platform services on a workload by workload basis, they work in conjunction in certain things. It lightens the load overall on the ERP implementation, and then results in better success there too, right? Where you're using I'll just call it the right tool for the job. Exactly. When you look at core ERP out of the box functionality in conjunction with some of the Power Platform services.
Yeah, and there are some areas that actually make more sense for citizen developers to build applications in them, like dashboards and reports. So we all know it was for partners or for service providers, requests for reports, for customized reports, whether to do with CRM or ERP or anything else, would take time, because a level of governance would need to be there, ratifying the requirements, vetting them, what the interface would look like, and so on and so forth. Now with Power BI, especially with the Power BI Copilot, this is something business users can very, very quickly do. And yeah, there will be replication across the organization of the dashboards and reports built by citizen developers, but I think the business impact of that is less than having to wait for a partner to go through their governance and build a custom report.
Guys, these are great answers, and I hope this, good question from the audience. If it was not answered, please let us know. Please reach out if you'd like some more information. But before we begin to wrap up the conversation, I do just want to come back to one use case in particular again that fits in well here. And again, that's the field. People out in the field, whose main device is a phone or a tablet, even a laptop, just definitely not at a desk, right? But I want to know from your experience, are there any keys to success with the Power Platform project out in the field? Any considerations or things an organization should know if they're looking to develop something for the field using Power Platform? Maybe Luke, I'll start with you. I know we've had some good conversations about this in the past, and yeah, we can bounce around.
Yeah, well, the KISS model, keeping it simple, right? For those field users, I think the Power Platform affords that capability. And at least, from a enterprise IT perspective, a lot of people are looking here. It's from a security trimming perspective, all of that with Entra, it's fairly simple and quicker wins to actually get that in people's hands. Sussing out relatively early on, is that offline, if and when offline capabilities are required, and I think really just having a good thought process on what actual, what's the MVP, if you will, in terms of data points that you're looking to capture or push out to the field, so that it's not overwhelming. Assuming that those folks in the field that are working, their primary job is not to be a data analyst or data collection person. It's by and large to work, tactically with hands-on in a hands-on scenario. So not being behind a screen, right? It's to do whatever they're intended to do in the field. So really focus on minimum viable product in terms of data points would be the one, if I had to say one thing.
Yeah, I'm just going to add that I totally agree with Luke. If it is a simple requirement, maybe a quick app can be built. My advice, my recommendation would be to look into what's already available in Dynamics services and in Resco. And if heavy customization to that is required, it may be also difficult to implement using a Power app. There is an example where we needed to provide geofencing, for example, using a mobile application, and it was easier implemented, though a customization on Resco, than to build it as a Power app or to customize on field services.
Yeah, I think the key component, as Luke mentioned, other than keeping it simple, it's realizing, how the app is going to work on something like this versus an actual, laptop. Number one, you have a lot limited real estate versus the actual laptop. And I don't know about you, but I got big fingers, so trying to go over theirs and trying to figure out some things, sometimes it's hard. So you have to make sure that you think about those limitations, that you have limited real estate, the device itself, it's not going to perform as well as a laptop or a PC. And make sure, and also the fact that people are going to be out there in the field, they may be in a circumstance where they have to enter data quickly, like especially for people that are maybe doing service repairs or doing things that they got to do it quickly, that it performs properly, right? You don't want something to push a button and then, okay, I got to wait, while it loads. I got to make sure I got a good signal, because otherwise it's not going to download the data, things like that. So those are the different considerations. What I've done in the past for specific apps is, again, limit the functionality of what it should be here versus what it should be on the actual laptop. So on the laptop, you got the full functionality of whatever you're supposed to be doing based on your role, but maybe those little things that you got to do in a mobile device, then fine, it's there. But again, keep in mind, you're only supposed to be using very little out of the overall solution on the phone.
And Ivan, maybe from you for the Resco perspective, I know we could do a whole hour just on this, but like, you know, just adding some flavor to the rest of the conversation.
Yeah, hard to add more. I think we have real Resco experts here today. I just reiterate that's simple, but I would add the flavor of easy to use for the user. What Guillermo said about big hands, well, we sometimes hear from customers who use gloves, right? So think about how you're going to operate that application when you have a glove on your fingers. But also, like, don't expect your people in the field to become experts on how to use the app. So simple in terms of easy to use, right? They are experts in their field, in what they're doing, in the industry that some of them. I remember a visit of a customer. I spent 2 days with a technician on a ride along. That guy knew everything about his job. He didn't need an app to show him where to go or what to do. For him, every app was kind of like a slowdown for him because he had to report everything because he was so skilled, right? But an easy to use app that wouldn't add additional 15 minutes after he's done a job, that was the most important thing, right? Yeah, I have to do some reporting, update all my records, but I don't want to spend another 30 minutes here because of doing that, right? So the app should be really smooth. Minimum number of screens, minimum number of touch points, clicks or taps, etc. Provide me what's really important. And one more point to that, to maybe take it to the extreme. Last week, Trevor, we had a workshop with one of our partners and customers here in the Boston office, and they're really interesting. They actually use Resco app even on laptops and PCs because they love that they can totally lock the UI. So they don't even allow the users to go anywhere outside of what they're supposed to be doing. So do we have many of those? Not really, but I think it's kind of the proof of, yes, you don't want your people to get lost quickly in the complexity of the UX and UI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
great.
Definitely. It's a different experience.
Mm-hmm. We're getting to the end, so maybe I'll encourage people who are with us to pose their questions, and we'll give it maybe a minute for people to type the questions in. But so far for me, this was awesome. I really appreciate your inputs here. I learned a ton today. I made a lot of notes, and I really look forward to continuing these discussions in the future. But let's see if we have any questions.
Mm-hmm.
There's an interesting one. What's the biggest solution which was built using Power Platform in terms of development hours?
Oh boy.
Whoever wants to take that one. I know I can start by you sometime. I know there are some entire solutions built on Power Platform, right? If anybody's familiar with Steve Mordew's Rapid Start CRM, which is supposed to be the CRM fully built on Power Platform, that probably could be one of the examples, right?
Yeah, that was one of the other, like XRM. I was wondering if that was going to get the ForceWorks was going to get a name drop, right? With respect to just plucking out some of the bloat, if we want to call it that, from the core sales functionality. Geez, it really ranges, right? That's such a broad question. We've seen several thousand-hour type of projects, depending on the scope of things, and I think it's, especially if you look at now how portals have moved from Dynamics under the Power Platform services. Portal projects can be, depending on the nature of the business. If it's I know we worked with a company that did manufacturing of some backyard product and worked through it, 2 channels, a dealer distributor channel and a direct channel. And so the amount of effort put into a portals-based solution was fairly substantial.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm just going to say thousands of hours easily. If you want to take a look at a Microsoft built Power App, take a look at the Microsoft Sustainability Manager, which was initially their internal tool to capture carbon emissions and so on, and has now been released as a product. It's the Microsoft Sustainability Manager. That's a Power App.
Yeah, you bring up a good one. I've worked with the nonprofit app before, and that's also a Power App, and it's pretty big. So yeah, I've seen projects that have definitely been in the thousands of hours, several months type deal. It just depends.
Yeah, I don't know how many hours it was, but I know of a project that was built mostly in Power Platform for COVID purposes in New York State. So tracking of whatever services were provided during that time. There's a new question, and I think that might be the last one, right, considering the time. Any insights in general regarding developers debugging low-code platforms? Are we generally at the mercy of whatever error messages are shared with us? So debugging low-code platforms, what is the best developer approach? Should we just rely on some error messages that the users are getting, or is there a better way to work around this?
I would say it depends on what you're doing. I mean, because if I come from the mindset of try to have as little as code as possible, and trying to use as much out of the box, meaning fields and everything that is built within the Power Platform as possible. And for automation, use Power Automate as much as possible, which again, it gives you the tool to actually troubleshoot whatever you need. So I would imagine that it would depend on that. If you start getting into the more highly code-based things like a Canvas app, or actually writing a plugin or doing JScript, then yeah, you would have to figure out a way to do that. And that's a little bit out of my scope because I'm not that technical. But what I usually comment is, if you're starting to get into this platform, try to limit those type of customizations to make your life a lot simpler. I mean, unless you really have to. You have to. So.
Yeah, I echoing that, right? Like, look at the business process first. Do you need to go to customization immediately, or do you need to go there as a secondary or tertiary option, right? Especially if you look at all of the services available. Configuration of out-of-the-box components first. Look to use anything. The app source is quite a wealth of resources. I guess we'll use Resco by example, as you guys are here present in the chat. So where do those certified for Microsoft Dynamics and Power Platform ISVs fit in and plug and play to minimize customization and customize where required, or adapt business processes, right? The classic cliche of, do you want to bend the process to the technology, or are you going to make the technology bend to you? So from more of a business process perspective, I would say those would be my thoughts. I don't know if you have anything to add on it.
No, I totally agree. It's a bit too technical for me as well. But the whole idea of the Power Platform is that it's low code, no code. So from the root, you shouldn't have to, write code yourself, and that hopefully means you won't need to debug as much. But yeah, I've seen developers actually build applications in sessions in front of me, and there was some debugging required, especially when you deviate from the use of the low-code, no-code capability.
Yeah. John, who posted the question, just elaborated a little bit on that, and he's wondering, would you recommend to search to see if anyone has solved the problem before, or would you rather contact Microsoft support?
I would imagine that he's asking based on an error that somebody's experiencing within the app. So my comment is gonna be based on that. In my experience, because the adoption of the Power Platform /XRM /Dynamics has been so big throughout the years, there is a benefit that we have a huge community out there of people that more likely have experienced the same thing. And that's why MSD World exists, and that's why a lot of the other partners exist. So there's a lot of resources out there that you could ask to other people about what's going on. I mean, absolutely. If that fails, then obviously Microsoft would be a good place to go. But I wouldn't necessarily say no, don't reach out. Yes, reach out to other people, because more than likely they've seen it.
Yeah. And especially super users and Microsoft MVPs, because that is their role. Actually, that's what they earn the status as an MVP is given for. So I agree, Guillermo, that the community. I attended the Power Platform Community Conference in Las Vegas last year, and 6,500 people were there. So the community is huge.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Gents, I think that's it. Trevor, what do you think?
Yeah, I think we filled our time. This was a great conversation. I just want to thank all of you for being here. Thank Jason and Adam at MS Dynamics World for helping us pull this together, and for everyone who's joined us today live. Thank you for being here for the inaugural Powercast. If there's any other questions that we missed or you didn't get answered today, please follow up with us. We'll have this recorded and it'll be available if there's anything you'd like to come back to. And with that, we'll see you either at DynamicsCon or Resco Next, or we'll see you on the next Powercast. So thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for organizing.